The house had stood empty for decades, its windows shattered, its walls crumbling, yet it always seemed alive. They called it the Blackwood Manor, built atop an old graveyard. Locals whispered that the builders had ignored the warnings, burying their ambition alongside the forgotten dead. But curiosity, and a contract I couldn't refuse, brought me there. I arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky painted with bruised purples and reds. The air around the house was heavy, thick with a metallic scent that made my stomach churn. Even from the road, I could see strange shapes moving behind the broken windows, shadows that didn't match the structure inside. My flashlight barely pierced the gloom, but I stepped forward anyway. The front door groaned as I pushed it open, and the air inside was colder than the night outside. Dust covered every surface, but what disturbed me most were the floorboards. Some were cracked, others looked freshly disturbed, as though something had walked across them very recently. I told myself it was just the house settling. I explored the first floor, my flashlight revealing old furniture, portraits of grim-faced ancestors, and cobwebs thick enough to drag across my face. Then I noticed something odd. On the walls, faint scratches formed words, pleas written by hands unseen. Leave, leave now. They seemed recent. My pulse quickened. I moved upstairs, each step creaking loudly. The hallway stretched impossibly long, the ceilings sagging in corners, and doors I hadn't noticed on the first floor now appeared. One door at the end of the hallway was slightly ajar. I approached slowly, heart hammering. Inside, the room was empty except for a single rocking chair, swaying as if someone had just left it. Then I heard a whisper, soft at first, then growing louder. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around, nothing. But when I looked back at the chair, it had stopped moving. My flashlight flickered, and for a moment, I saw something crouched in the corner. A figure, pale and twisted, its head cocked at an impossible angle. Its mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then it vanished. I felt the floor beneath me shift. The boards groaned like the house was alive, like the walls themselves were breathing. I ran down the stairs, but the layout had changed. Rooms twisted in impossible ways, hallways looping back on themselves. I realized then that the house was not just built on graves, it was feeding on them. The dead beneath were awake, restless, shaping the walls and corridors to trap intruders. Footsteps echoed behind me. Not mine, something heavy, dragging, deliberate. I turned a corner and saw hundreds of skeletal hands breaking through the floorboards, clawing at the air, faces pressed against the windows. Some human, some grotesque and decayed, watching me, pleading, laughing. The whispers became screams, filling the house with a chorus of rage and despair. I tried to escape through the front door, but it slammed shut before I could touch it. Windows shattered as shadows poured through them, stretching toward me, filling every space. The portraits on the walls began to move. The eyes followed me, the mouths whispered secrets, the frames cracking as if the dead inside were trying to get out. Then I stumbled into the basement. The air was thick, the smell of rot overpowering. Candles lit themselves in a circle, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. Graves, real graves, were stacked haphazardly in the corners, some freshly dug. I realized with horror that the house had been built over dozens of bodies. Some buried centuries ago, some very recently. A cold hand grasped my shoulder. I spun, but no one was there. I felt it again, pulling, dragging me toward the graves. My flashlight flickered again, revealing dozens of faces rising from the dirt, mouths screaming silently. I fought to break free, clawing at the walls, at the dirt, at everything around me. Finally, I burst through the front door into the night. The house behind me stood silent, still, almost innocent in the pale moonlight, but I knew the truth. Blackwood Manor was alive, it was patient, and it remembered. I left the property immediately, but even now, weeks later, I can hear whispers in the wind at night, hear floorboards creaking in my own apartment, see shadows stretch unnaturally at the corners of my vision. The house had followed me, and one day, it would claim me completely. Blackwood Manor isn't just a house, it's a tomb, a predator, a memory made flesh, and anyone foolish enough to enter will never leave the same way they came.